Do you need cash? Do you want to consolidate debt? Premier Credit can help. They provide quick and confidential loans for any reason. Their service is same day, and most loans are approved within minutes. You can apply in person or by the phone. Their experienced and knowledgeable loan professionals will leave you feeling confident that your loan is being properly handled in a secure manner. Premier Credit can be reached at 225-667-8100, or you can email WeSayYes@premiercredit.com, or stop by and spin the wheel at 139 Del Norte Avenue in Denham Springs. They're open Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and are a proud sponsor of Local Leaders, the podcast. So is Pawn Stars really reality TV? What laws govern pawn shops in Livingston Parish? What are the most pawned items in the area? And what items that pawn shops are almost always looking for? You'll get the answers to those questions and many more as I sit down with local leader and owner of BJ Pawn, Jeremy Powell. So with that, Jeremy, welcome to Local Leaders, the podcast.
How we doing?
I'm good. I was really excited to get you on here, not only because BJ Pawn is such a staple in the community, but more specifically in Denham Springs. You're especially intriguing guest because you have quite literally grown up in the pawn business. Before we get into all things pawn and talk about everything you do with BJ Pawn, I want to get to know a little bit about you, where you grew up and how your family ended up in the pawn shop business.
So I grew up right around the corner from here, actually, in the Willows.
Okay.
So I grew up there. I walked past this building all my life.
Yeah.
Going to school. I've been, like I said, I grew up in the pawn industry. I'm third generation.
Third generation. Okay.
Third generation. So my dad, when he turned 18, he moved here to be with his actual biological father, which at that time had Powell Plywood and Lumber, which was a lumber yard. And as business went different ways and different things happened, he transitioned into a pawn shop. So he was already pretty much running a pawn shop, doing employee advances and buying stuff off the street because he was a bit of a eclectic person. Right. So he was constantly doing that kind of stuff already. And my grandfather made a weekend living, is what he called it, off of firearms, already doing gun shows. So he had a box truck, and the gun shows funded his fishing addiction, he called it.
Oh, yeah? So that's a good thing.
So the gun shows were what he, like I said, he had a love for guns too, but he had addicted for deep sea fishing too.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of people around here with that addiction. So that's interesting. You went to high school here, obviously?
Yeah, went all the way through Freshwater, Denham Junior, Denham High.
Go Jackets.
Go Jackets, for sure. Definitely go Jackets. So I try to do what I can with the high school when they reach out.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you're a very active member of the community in a lot of ways. And you've had, you took over this pawn shop. How many years have you been kind of
I've been really running it since probably 2011.
Yeah.
My father passed in 2013.
Yeah.
So I got a full ball thrown in my court in 2013.
How old were you?
13. I was 22.
That's amazing, Jeremy. It really is. When I was 22, you didn't want me in a pawn shop, much less running a pawn shop. Yeah. So that's pretty amazing. So at 22, you took over and really started running things. And I'm sure it was a lot of kind of trial by fire. You had to get in there and.
It was one of those things. It was kind of like I knew how to run the day-to-day operations, but I didn't know about taxes. I didn't know about permits, laws, regulations on certain things. I knew a lot about the regulations for day-to-day stuff, but I didn't know what they extended past the day-to-day operations. I could go in and be a good store manager all day, and make it happen. I had that already. That was what I was doing, but I wasn't managing the financials and the long-term longevity and what needs to happen for advertising, what the slow seasons are, what the busy seasons are for certain products. A lot of that changed and is constantly changing. It's a never-ending evolving market because the people's wants and needs are constantly changing.
Yeah.
We're here to service the people.
Right, exactly. And you did the smart thing. You didn't, you had to familiarize yourself with taxes and stuff, and you said, well, I'll just marry someone that's a tax person.
I did make that mistake. I wouldn't call it a mistake. I love her dearly. So, but yeah,
great.
I married my accountant.
Yeah, there you go. And that solved that problem. And you have some children. Tell us a little bit about them.
So I have a 11-year-old, or I say 10, 11. He talks back like a 20-year-old.
Does he ever?
But he's in 4th grade at Levi Milton.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I have a 2-year-old that is like Hot Wheels, hell on wheels.
Oh.
He's in the destructive mode of 2-year-old.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's just part of their phases.
And his older son. Okay, so Jeremy used to live across the street from me, and for those of you that may have met his son, he is like personality plus. This kid, very, very smart, very impressive young man. But one of the things I miss most about Jeremy living right across the street from me, I used to love watching his kid run up and down the road. I mean, 100 miles an hour, he'd either be on his little 3-wheeler deal or 4-wheeler deal he had. Yeah. And so you've done a good job being a young man, young in the business of pawn, even though you grew up in it, running it, all yourself, and you still managed to raise some kids there. And now they're getting in age, and one day your oldest will say, I grew up in the pawn business.
That's the goal.
And so that's awesome. Jeremy has in BJ Pawn. Have you always been at this location right here on Florida Boulevard, or?
So we used to have 2 locations. Okay. My grandfather originally started with Walker Pawn, when he was married to one of his wives at the time.
Okay.
My grandfather lived to be a whole 52 years old and was married 5 times.
Oh, wow.
So he made his way around. So when he was married to one of his wives at the time, which was Brenda Jacqueline, where the BJ comes from, everybody always asks that. That's our best guess. We don't really know why he named it BJ Pawn. Yeah. But Brenda Jacqueline was who he's married to when he opened that. And it used to be, half of it used to be a pawn shop, and the other half used to be her pottery shop and pottery studio.
Wow.
So where she did pottery classes and all that. So that's where we think the BJ come from. My father bought it from his dad about 3 months before I was born.
Okay.
So he bought it outright from his dad, and took on his in-law as an investor, his father-in-law as an investor, to run the shop and make it happen.
Gotcha. And it has grown. And there was 2016, of course, you had kind of a double dose of that. You had a business and a home completely underwater, and we're not talking, 2 inches, 4 feet plus in both. And my question to you would be, what is something positive in your mind? And I know that's hard to find, but something positive maybe that came out of that flood for you, something you learned. For me, it was that, it strengthened my belief in the community, because after that flood, I saw so many people pitch in. We were kind of on an island, literally, by ourselves for a little while, and we had to rely on each other as a community. And so for me, that was a positive thing to come out of it. But what would you say was a positive thing?
My biggest positive takeaway from the flood was, even though it may seem like the end of the world, it's never the end of the world.
Right.
So, you go through stuff. It's trials and tribulations. So, we experienced a lot of loss, but a lot of the loss was necessary. It helped us. We were in the middle of a remodel, so we got to do it again.
Yeah.
In both places. We were remodeling both. Yeah. So we got to do that twice. Oh. We got that perfected.
Yeah.
So, but I think the biggest thing was like you said, the community aspect of help. I had guys show up for weeks on end that would just help me carry trash out on a daily basis. And you go to pay them or try to give them something. No, I'm just here to help.
Yeah. And
I'm like, well, you've been here for 10 and a half hours today. I can't even, no, you can't buy my lunch either.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. And that's what I think it brought out the best in people. As crazy as that sounds, and that's what our friends to the west of us are learning right now. I mean, Lake Charles and those surrounding areas are absolutely decimated right now. Yeah. They got wind, they didn't get water, and regardless of which way, and some people got water, but not to the extent of this with the water, but devastation nonetheless. If your house is gone, your house is gone. And if you have to rebuild, you have to rebuild. It doesn't matter whether it was wind or water. And of course, all our hearts go out to those people. And I'm really happy to see that a lot of people in the community have rallied around, brought things up there, and are trying to help because they were here for us when it happened to us. I can remember the policing community from Lake Charles specifically parking at Carter's grocery store right there by where you used to live on Vincent. And really just, I asked them, I said, how long y'all staying here? And they said, as long as we're needed. And they, we're doing this out of the goodness of our hearts and had nothing. So anybody out there that's listening or watching, please don't hesitate to give to those folks up there like they did for us here because they sure could use it. Now let's get. Stephanie Berthelot and the crew at SR Enterprise can handle it all, from sheetrock to texture to paint. Give Stephanie a call at 504-432-9284. SR Enterprise, where they spread the paint and you spread the word. Get into your business a little bit more. I want to talk about some really interesting things that I'm pumped up to talk about because I don't know that we've ever really talked about it. Now, when most folks think of pawn shops, they think of three things: guns, jewelry, and tools. Okay. And I'm sure that that's the bread and butter of what you do. But your pawn shop is very interesting in that you have a big, expansive inventory. It doesn't stop at just jewelry, guns, and tools. So what are some other things that you sell that differ from that you can't necessarily find at all pawn shops, or maybe not in a big inventory?
In a big inventory. So I never thought, like I said, growing up in a pawn shop, being with my grandfather and my dad, I never thought in 100 years that I would be looking at women's bags on a daily basis. It's really crazy.
Purses and such.
Purses. I never thought that I would be looking at shoes either, and boots. But there's a market for those. Those things actually, limited edition runs and so forth there's money in them. We don't do a ton of shoes because I'm not 100% educated and feel confident in it. But when it comes to a bag, you can hand it to me and I can give you 3 or 4 minutes. I can give you a 90% positive or no if it's real or not.
Yeah.
So a lot of education, a lot of software, a lot of seminars. It's amazing that, the luxury goods market we never really messed with as much as we thought, but the luxury goods market is highly traded. In certain cultures, like in Japanese culture, it's a taboo to have a fake. It's no good. You're going to be shunned upon.
And when you say luxury goods, are you talking like Prada, purses?
Prada, Louis Vuitton, Hermes, Gucci, Chanel.
So y'all deal in all that stuff.
Yeah. So that kind of stuff, that's one of those things that I never thought we would be, just absolutely killing it in. We got away from certain things in the flood, and we picked up certain other product lines in the flood.
Right.
So, it was a time to transition some product lines around. Some inventory statuses and areas. It's just I never, like I said, I still walk in and look at the wall of purses and go amazed that I would stock $6,000, $7,000 worth of purses on the wall.
Yeah. And look, not just purses. One thing I'm good with, and I know Jeremy can vouch for this, is I like to shop local. So I will text Jeremy almost every time I need something and just check and see if they have it at his pawn shop before I go looking elsewhere for it, because he's got so many different things. If I'm considering buying an Apple Watch, for example, I'm gonna text Jeremy and say, "Hey, got any Apple Watches up there? Because I wanna keep my money here in the parish if I can." And if he has it, I'm helping a friend, and I'm also helping myself get what I'm looking for. And you're reasonable. That's something that I really wanted to hammer down with BJ Pawn. You're not gonna walk in there and have a crazy price on something. It's gonna be priced as per what the market is calling for. It's not going to be, way out of line. And we're going to get into kind of how you determine that and things like that. But before we do, I do want to talk a little bit about a special machine you have. You have a machine there that can do engraving, things like that. This is something that you have gotten into probably relatively recent. So tell me a little bit about that.
So it's not as recent as most people think. I just don't really advertise it hard because it takes a little bit of manpower to run it, and it mainly me as a manpower. So we got into this when Dr. Ron at Elite Chiropractic, Ron McMorris, did a fundraiser to raise, after the shooting in July, right before the flood. I mean, this is all kind of pushed together. The shooting in July with Nick Toulier. Dr. Ron reached out and we started a fundraiser. He really headed it up. I was just kind of helping him. And we put a rifle in every LPSO unit. So every LPSO unit has the ability to have a rifle in it. Dr. Ron raised the money. We got him donated to this, to LPSO. So that way they were to have a rifle in the unit in case we were to ever have an issue like East Baton Rouge had here in Livingston Parish, to keep our officers safe. That's a big deal to us. So when that happened, part of the agreement with LPSOs, they had to be property marked. Well, you start digging around and it's kind of hard to find somebody for that. Really? And so we looked at outsourcing it. We did the first few, because we did these things in batches. After that, we decided it was better off to do this in-house, and I sat down and it became a hobby now. So it's really, I enjoy laser engraving because it's challenging to me.
Yeah.
So there's certain things I can walk up and go, okay, that's no big deal. We'll have it done in 5 minutes. And there's certain things that are challenging.
Sure.
So I've come to enjoy it. So we do in-house laser engraving, magazines, back of watches, back of Apple phones, firearms, tools. You'd be surprised at how many people want their tools property marked, especially when they go into these plants. You got a $300-$400 tool. They want to have their name and phone number on it.
Look, and what about this just popped in my head as you're talking about it, but the Livingston Parish school system. So they do computers, and these are things that, in the old days, they just take a sticker and put it back there and it'd say property of the Livingston Parish school system. But I would imagine that's something that you could probably engrave to where you can track this. Would it be a problem if these guys came to you to try to pawn a computer and you don't know where this computer came from? This is a way to track that, to know, wait a minute, this is the computer you were given for school. And I'm assuming they have to, and McHugh's off camera, but I'm going to ask you, they have to return these computers after the use of them at some point, I would imagine, the kids that get these from the school system for COVID.
Yeah, it's a rent.
Okay.
And actually, he reached out to me. Jeremy reached out to me to ask those questions, and I'll let him answer because he probably remembers a little bit better than. But I got him in touch with the tech department at the central office, and they gave us some information about how they're labeling these computers.
Yeah.
Well, then it wasn't my genius idea, is what you're saying. Oh, well.
And when I first heard about it, with the CARES Act coming out, the CARES Act allotted a lot of money to these school systems all across the country for distance learning, as they call it. And I said, well, if they're doing distance learning, we had this problem back when Baton Rouge started the private charter program for the underprivileged kids, which I think is a great program, but it also allowed all these K through 12 online schools to pop up. And a lot of these K through 12 online schools are using state money, and it's all state funded, and they're not property marking this stuff. And we're seeing, and they're not giving out cheap computers by any means.
Right.
Nowhere near like what the parish is. The parish went with an affordable model computer on it. It makes sense. It's not overkill.
Yeah.
So these K through 12 online schools that have popped up as part of this private charter program, we ran into some issues with them, and they are pretty headstrong. And I still got a letter sitting on the AG's office waiting for review on it, because us as an association of pawnbrokers, it's our tax dollars too. We pay sales tax, we pay our tax dollars. We're regular people and humans.
Sure.
So it's our money going to waste too that we're getting burned on.
Yeah.
So that we can't do anything with in our business. So we don't want it either. We don't want the stolen property. We don't want the unusable property. That's not what we're here for. Our loans are really more so they are collateral based, but it's based upon faith still. Just like the American dollar, it's still based upon faith.
Right.
We hold the piece of collateral in terms of making you have a reward for retrieving your loan, but that's the only thing we have.
Right.
So,
it makes actually total sense.
So, we ran into that issue, and when the CARES Act come out and I read that, and I said, we need to be proactive on this situation and figure out, what models they're giving out, what they're going to be property marketing them with. So that way we can know in that local area what we're looking for, what not to take, because they're going to show up. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when they show up. Some of these may show up in 3 or 4 years from now.
That's right. And
it's not going to be immediately, because the kids are going to need them. It's when this school year is over with is when the problems are going to start arising.
Right. And Jeremy, that's going to be our local leader tip of the day. And that is be proactive, not reactive. And so that's exactly what you're doing in all of this. And that brings me to another point, which would be computers. Let's take computers, for example. Look, they're hard to find right now. Every school system in the country was taking every laptop in the country, which they should. I mean, we want our kids to have those laptops when they don't have the ability to get one, and that's fine. But it created a shortage in the market, didn't it?
Most definitely. There's a shortage in the market of everything with the situation with COVID.
Indeed.
It don't matter if you're looking for a bicycle, a golf ball, or an arrow.
Yeah.
So there's a shortage.
That's a good point.
So it doesn't really much matter.
Yeah.
There's a shortage across the market on everything.
There is,
and it doesn't, and everybody's seeing it. It doesn't matter what industry, and you're going to find there's something shortage in your industry.
LeAnn's Flooring by Design, conveniently located on Florida Boulevard in Denham Springs. LeAnn can service all of your flooring needs. Give them a call for an appointment at 523-7004. At LeAnn's Flooring by Design, they stand behind everything you walk on. We're having in the paint industry, they're having major it's not necessarily shortage of product. It's shortage of being able to get the product to you. So what happens is if you have a company that has a 1 million square foot plant, a worldwide company, and I'm not going to name names, but a few people there get COVID and they shut that entire plant down. They have the raw material to make the product that maybe Farrell County might be buying, but they don't have the plant open, or it's now open, but the problem is they have a backlog a mile long, and they have fell so far behind. When you're used to getting a product in 3 days, it has become 3 weeks. And that is not, like you said, that's every industry. So that's where I'm seeing a major backlog when I'm talking to people.
Yeah.
So computers, I know that I was in there the other day, and you had some laptops. You had at the time you had a good bit of them. Are those blowing out the door as quick as you can get them?
They're going pretty quick. I know we sold out of one of our SKUs today on laptops. We have 2 SKUs left of laptops pretty much. We had 4. So they're going faster by word of mouth than we can even keep up with getting them charged and checked and function checked and putting them out.
And a great price you had on them too.
These are all refurbished laptops mainly coming from HP out of Canada, believe it or not. And that seems to be, it is a week wait for import, but that's been the best answer.
Yeah, and that's not unreasonable by any means. So I want to talk about this a little bit. Take us through the steps of an actual pawning process. I know it depends on the item, but what is considered a pawn and what is considered a sale for those that may have never done business with a pawn shop?
So the easy way to make it easy for most people is a pawn is a loan. It is a simple based collateral loan. Just like if you were, hey, Jim, I ain't got enough money for gas this week. Will you take my
microphone?
Yeah, this microphone and give me $40 for gas this week? That's what we do.
Okay.
So that's the base of it. There's terms, there's laws, there's regulations, but the base of it is we're here to help everyday people get by in case of emergencies or in case of something happening, or people that just don't believe in the banking system. We got guys that I know that don't believe in the banking system and they just refuse to have a bank account. Yeah. It's not that they're unprivileged or underpaid or anything. They just don't believe in having a bank account. Sure. When they get a check, even if it's $6,000-$7,000, they go to the bank, they cash it, they bring it home, they put it in a safe. Yep. They don't believe in having a bank account. I mean, they may have a bank account, but they don't keep no balance in it.
Yeah. They keep just enough to pay their house note or something.
And that's really it. And that's the guys that we deal with on a daily basis. A lot of these guys work week to week for cash, or they work week to week with the weather, framing houses, doing so forth. A lot of it is, at will call workplace, Yeah. So we help those guys get by, make ends meet.
Very good. Very good. And that's something that, you said a key word there, and that's you help. And that's what y'all are there to do. And there's no judging in the pawn shop. If you've got something and of value and you need something to get you by, you're more than willing to help those people out. Now, if someone were to go in there and they wanted to sell, pick an item, but they wanted to sell something, is it cash on the spot? Typically,
it's cash on the spot. So we give cash on the spot. There's some insurance standards there. If we get to a certain number amount, we got to go to a check or go to the bank and write you a certified funds. Sure. So that happens time to time. That was a deal I was doing right before I got here, actually, was going to get certified funds for a deal.
Gotcha.
But it happens. It's not often, we can typically give you, it takes a little while, but we can get you $2,000 or $3,000 in cash, depending on what you got, pretty quick, but there's some procedures and, there's always insurance and, safety security measures in place.
So if you have a gun and you want to sell that gun, I know there's a waiting process when you purchase a gun, but what about when you sell one? Is there a waiting process on that end?
Cash on spot.
Cash on the spot.
Firearms are very, very often confused in a big regulation. They're not registered. If they make you wait, it's because they're waiting to check your background to see if you're eligible to own that type of firearm. It has nothing to do with the firearm. It has nothing to do with anything other than records is what they're wanting to do. They need to be able to see, okay, so-and-so says he was born in Portsmouth, Virginia, but his social security number actually comes back as a North Carolina social security number, so there's something wrong there. Yeah. So they want to be able to see what's going on. Where's your mom and dad active military? Were they transferred up there? Were you really born in North Carolina? You just don't know you weren't born in Virginia. Right. That kind of stuff happens. That's the kind of stuff that throws kinks in the delay process of checking your background. And that's done with the FBI. That's not done with us. So we take that information, we plug it into an FBI portal. FBI tells us what we can and can't do.
And there's absolutely nothing you can do about it.
There's nothing else I can do about that. That is it. What it is what it is.
Now, 9 times out of 10, it's probably nothing and everything's fine. And the reason I bring that up is if you go in there and look, I bought a 9mm probably 9 years ago, and the guy says, well, you can come pick it up in 3 days. And I said, well, I want it right now. I don't want it in 3 days. And he said, well, they're checking your stuff. And so I go home and of course I know nothing about any of this process. And I'm thinking, what do I have on my record? Why are they not letting me have this gun? But it was just, for whatever reason, they wanted to dig a little deeper. They did. The guy called me 3 days later and said, you can come get your gun. It was all good. That's it. But so don't, from a public perspective, get offended because of that. And I know some people tend to, and there's nothing this gentleman can do about that for sure.
And you got to, it's a federal system, so it's nationwide. They're processing hundreds of thousands of these a day. I mean, I think this year we're at like 2.7 million of these applications processed for, in the United States. And that's just people trying to buy a firearm,
Yeah.
Like I said, that's just inquiring. That doesn't mean it's a guaranteed sale.
Now,
That's just the inquiry number.
yeah, exactly.
So
And
it's you got to think there's only so much a computer can do before a person has to get involved, and there's only so many people that work there.
yeah. And I would imagine this would be kind of a question you may think is strange or whatever, but I've always wondered this from a pawnbroker's perspective. So election time is probably, and when I say that, I mean national election time, presidential elections. These are probably great for the pawnbroker because you almost always see like a run on ammunition. You see a run on guns and things like that. It's kind of like, catastrophes in the paint business are they're an awful thing, but they jump business in the paint business way up, obviously, because there was a catastrophe. Yeah. So I would imagine you see more of a run on these sort of things during turbulent times, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
When COVID hit, I know bullets were hard to get.
Yeah. So, and same thing like you were saying with the supply and demand on the paint side, we're running into the same issue with ammo. Ammo comes, there's a lot of raw materials that come from out of the country to make ammo. There's still you still got to machine brass. You still got to get the brass. You still got to there's a lot of components and a lot of other factors that go into it. And when you have something like COVID happens on top of, you already having national shortages of this product before COVID gets here, you just compound the issue and the demand is through the roof. And the issues are compounded on the other side, so it's not a good equation for what's going to happen. Prices are going to keep going up. You're going to find scalpers in the market that are going to buy product to resell just to be able to make a few bucks because they got the connection for it.
Right. Preppers.
So and we're big on trying not to raise prices if we don't have to. We're going to stick to our core vendors. We'll do a few weeks without, rather than have a regular $15 box of ammo now go to $19 or $22 a box. We'll sit without and cover, some of our stuff. We had a guy the other day, he acted like it was a ploy to make him buy a gun, and it wasn't. It's not by all means the way. We don't word it like that. He wrote us a bad Facebook review because we only sell ammo allocated with the purchase of firearm. It's been 7 weeks since I've had a case of ammo show up in my building. 7 weeks. I'm still getting 5, 10, 15, 25 handguns a week.
Yeah.
Eventually, I'm going to run out of boxes of ammo to sell with the handgun. And if I'm selling you a handgun with no ammo and there's no ammo in the market to buy, well, you just bought a rock, buddy, a fancy rock.
Yeah, that's a little bit ridiculous.
So
I mean, someone looking for ammo is not going to buy a gun, and you know.
And that's why I told the guy. I said, "Oh, it's not a ploy to make you buy a gun. I'm just trying to be fair." And there's a lot of new first-time gun buyers out there. About 40% of the gun sales since COVID have been first-time buyers. So we want to make sure that they have enough to be able to train and get familiar with the gun, because the more dangerous than a gun with no ammo is a person with a gun with ammo that doesn't know what to do with it.
Exactly right. Very good point. Very good point.
So, we want them to be safe with it at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're looking for the ammo, you probably already have the gun. So
and most people that are looking for the ammo normally already have a decent amount of ammo already. They're just trying to buy more.
Sure.
A lot of the gun people like to have 3,000-4,000 rounds of each round, because Obama said it unprecedented. When he got elected the first time, ammo sales and gun sales were through the roof.
Yeah.
It was just unbelievable, unprecedented times for the gun industry. Since I've been alive, since my dad was alive, even he said it was really crazy. He said it was worse than the Clinton stuff in the 90s when they started the Brady bill passed. When Brady bill passed, so he said it was worse than Brady bill. He said we sold more guns than I did in Brady bill.
Well, the gun industry was definitely targeted during that time, and so people that are Second Amendment people, they didn't want to get left out in the cold on that, I should say. So, is there anything you won't buy, or would you pretty much buy anything?
No, there's some stuff we stay away from. We don't do anything that has to do with like bodily sanitary. Yeah. Hair straighteners, curlers, razors. we'll do some old straight razor stuff if it's collectible style, but it's not really same thing. We don't want your vacuum cleaner after you sucked up your cat box with it. So, there's some household items we try to stay away from.
Sure.
We don't do like used blenders, stuff that kind of have raw material in it. Really, we'll do microwaves all day. That's a hot item right now.
Really?
Microwaves. Microwaves are been hot for a while. I don't know what's going on with them. I don't know if it's the China COVID thing or what, but microwaves have been pretty hot this year.
Interesting. So bring your microwaves to BJ Pawn if you're looking to get rid of them. He'll buy them. So what is it? What are some items? Just give me a couple examples of items, Jeremy, that when that pawn shop door opens and this person walks in and you see they have that, you're like, I'm buying that. What are some items like that?
Well, gold, silver. I mean, That's all day.
Yeah,
we love seeing that. Guns. I mean, so that's the majority of our business right there. Is gold, gun, silver.
What about computers?
Computers. I mean, we need computers, but I've like I said, I've been sourcing them.
Yeah.
But I'm still, I love to loan you money on anything.
Yeah. Musical instruments.
Musical instruments are hard. We need guitars, acoustic guitars, really acoustic guitars. We need a small electric amplifiers. We see a plethora of electric guitars because every kid at 14 years old wants to join a rock band, right? So we see a bunch of electric guitars, but no, acoustic guitars are a little bit more farther off. They're coming more popular now. I think more kids are wanting to play acoustic guitar over electric guitar.
Yeah.
But microwaves was TVs. TVs are coming back. We had a real shortage on TVs when COVID hit.
Yeah.
So we still got a few of them that are new left in box. They're what they call target takeoff displays. So from a guy that a nationwide company has they do the installs for Target displays on the TVs on the wall for Target, and they take them off. They get to keep the TVs.
So, and I do want to mention, just because I check with Jeremy on things, and one thing you maybe wouldn't think he had, or and he has a pretty good stock of it, is like flutes, trumpets, things like that. If your kids join in a band in high school, or in middle school for that matter, you don't have to go out and buy a brand new flute that they may or may not like when they get to 7th and 8th grade. Go buy them a used flute. They work very well over there at BJ Pawn, or a used trumpet or something like that. And let them try it, because trust me, they change 3 or 4 times. I have one daughter is a flute. She'll be embarrassed when I say this. She's a flute genius. She picked up a flute and could play it. And it's very, very good. But when I first bought her flute, I went to Jeremy and got one from BJ Pawn, because I figured she may like the French horn next year. Who knows? Yeah. So keep in mind, when you have these kids in school, check with BJ Pawn. And there's a good likelihood that what you're looking for, they're going to have. Yeah. They have a little bit of everything. That's why I love that store so much. And that's why I try to stay out of it sometimes, because every time I go in there, I'm looking around like my head's on a swivel. I'm looking for everything I can. And he's got a little electronics section that he has strategically placed right by the register. So when you're waiting to be rung up, you're looking at all the pretty little iPads and everything. Is that an item that is still pretty hot? You get them in and they go pretty quick.
Apple is definitely, Apple and Samsung's now gotten on the bandwagon. They're making it difficult to make a secondhand market out of this industry, out of their products. Yeah. They want to be captive on the secondhand market. They're locking a lot of that stuff up. Yeah. So it is a process on Apple products. Like, we had a lady the other day, she had 2 Apple Watches. I told her, I said, ma'am, I see you're here with your baby, and I know it's gonna, he's throwing a fit. You may want to come back another day. My offer stands. I can write it down for you. But we're looking at 45 minutes to get Apple Watches cleaned.
Yeah.
So it takes 25 minutes to pair it, and then you got to delete it to be able to check stuff. They're just not making it easy on us. I mean, I understand the security and the need for the security because of the way the stuff's stolen.
Yeah.
But it's definitely making it harder. Apple products are definitely always hot. Yeah. I don't think they won't be. As long as the stock's trading and they're making new products, it's going to be hot.
I agree. And there's a huge market for that stuff. Huge. Now, you also do lawnmowers. These guys that need trailers. Maybe you might have trailers there. I know lawnmowers, you get in and out, the 0 degree turn and stuff like that. I'll drive by sometimes, see them sitting out in the front. tools. You've got one of the biggest tool rooms in the South, Jeremy.
I would think so. I don't think most people don't spend their time on their tools like we do. A lot of your pawnbrokers look at tool as like an everyday commodity. It comes and goes quick. But a lot of those guys burn it on eBay as fast as they can because they're trying to just get the recovery as fast as they can. Sure. I really, and I hate to say it, I'm against online sales. It's not that there might be more money in online sales. I may be missing the buck here, but I like to be able to talk to my customer. I like to be able to see them. I like to be able to know what they're trying to do so I can help them solve the problem. Because they may be looking for tool A and tool B is going to solve the problem a whole lot better for them. Yeah. Some of us have worked in those situations before. We know what we're looking for, what you're going to do, what's going to break, what's not going to break. A lot of my guys have field experience in industrial work. I mean, a lot of my guys that work for me because they're tired of looking for a job every 6 months when the turnarounds die. Yeah. Or when the maintenance jobs get laid off because, COVID happened, Yeah. They get tired of that, I would say a good majority of our guys in the local area either work in an industrial plant or work with an industrial plant servicing it. Right. There's not a whole lot. I mean, Baton Rouge is decent sized economy, but outside of that, I mean, they're still tailoring where everybody's still tailoring towards that industry area. Sure. I mean, Exxon and Dow, and you got all those guys right here at the river. They're huge. They're massive. They employ thousands of people. Yeah. So,
there's no doubt about it. And you've got, when you go in his tool room, he's got, pretty much at least a couple of anything you could possibly be looking for, regardless of your industry. I mean, everything from paint sprayers to, wrenches, loose wrenches, big wrenches, pipe wrenches, you name it.
Battery power
chainsaws.
Tools.
Yeah, battery power tools. So the point I'm getting at here is anytime you need anything, Jeremy's the guy to go see. He can get that. He can get that for you. In all likelihood, he's going to have something in stock that you're looking for. There will always be times I've been hoping he would come across an Apple Watch forever. And I'm holding out. I have no watch on. I'm holding out until he gets one. I refuse to get it anywhere else. But just check with them. Give them a call. They love to get phone calls and they love to answer your questions on that. But what I get out of what you just said is you like working with the public. You like the personal experience of that. You can't get that with an online sale. Yeah, that's what you lose.
That's the big thing. And I'm jumping back a few questions here. So the tool room is probably where we have most demand for product that we're looking for. Window units, weed eaters, and push mowers. I don't care what time of year it is. I get phone calls for them and can't fill the deals. Yeah. So I'm always looking for used weed eater lawnmowers and push mowers. It doesn't make a difference. And window units, weed eaters, and push mowers. There's never enough of them. And we're probably unique in our tool room. We were first for Klein Tools to be a pawn shop that stocked new Klein tools. So, and then with our guys coming from the industrial area, some of my guys were like, well, the only place we can buy tools to put up red iron buildings and all these iron structures are at the union halls. And he said, I just feel like they're killing us on price. Mm-hmm. So we started stocking Klein.
So you're a Klein dealer.
We're a Klein dealer. Gotcha. So, and then we moved to Rude Dog, which is a ironworking brand to put up iron buildings.
Great name, by the way, Rude Dog. For an iron worker, trust me, I used to work with a lot of iron workers back in the day.
So Rude Dog, we stock Rude Dog new, and we're set up with a few other wholesalers for pipe fitting tools, wraparounds, wedges, center finders. So, because that's another big trade industry with the Exxon and all them being so close, is we keep a full stock of most of your fitting tools, your little wedges and so forth in stock for those guys, because a lot of times they either have to go to Airgas or the Union Hall to order this stuff, and Airgas, they believe in triple key markup. Yeah. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. And, regionally, it makes sense, everything you just said. Number one, we're surrounded by plants here. So, and you've got performance contractors and all those guys are right there in Baton Rouge, and they employ hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these iron workers, pipe fitters, things like that. So that helps a lot. And with the window units and those sorts of things, I mean, we're in the South. You're going to need weed eaters, lawnmowers, and window units year round. So it doesn't surprise me that stock is just constantly rotating at BJ Pawn. So let me ask you this. How do you value an item? What is the process? Okay, I know there have got to be people that come in there, Jeremy, and they've got something that, in all honesty, is worth $5, but in their mind, it's worth $100. Maybe they have a sentimental value to it that they're not taking into consideration, or maybe they just assume that it's worth $100. You know, you're very fair in how you value things. I've sold Jeremy a couple of things that I had no use for. He was very fair in his offer to me, but how do you go about determining the value?
So part of our software that we use on an everyday basis, it's very model number driven. Model numbers control, you know, specs, size, color, the whole 9 yards and all this stuff. So we look it up by the model number. We plug it in our software. Our software tracks pawn shops across the country. It doesn't tell us where it was sold at, but I can plug in, you know, DeWalt DW17. That's a DeWalt miter saw. I can plug it in. It'll pop up. It'll tell me there's been 1,200 something transactions. It'll tell me the average buy price, the average pawn price, and it'll tell me the average amount sold for across those 1,200 transactions. It gives me an average. So I have an idea, you know, this is data that's hard data, that's real data. It's not inflated. It's not made up. Right.
You're not setting the price the market is.
The market is. So, and the same thing, you know, before we had this software, we had to look at eBay, and eBay has sold data that they keep for 90 days. So, and you can look at sold data on eBay and see what stuff is going for. And that's still a secondary tool. We still use eBay as a secondary tool on stuff that doesn't have high transaction counts in our software.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of times, you know, newer product doesn't have high transaction counts. And in the pawn industry, as it's evolving and people are realizing that we're good to partner with, we got, you know, there's a lot of guys that have come out in the last 5 years that have realized that pawn industry is who we want to partner with. These guys don't care. They're not sentimental. You throw them a number and they say, okay, you can have them all. Yeah. And, you know, we've got a lot of wholesalers that have worked, you know, wholesalers and refurb guys that have partnered with us that realize that these are the guys we want to be buying from, you know. Yeah. You know, it's easier than dealing with a big department store because when, you know, we got 10 laptops sitting here that are broke that we can't do nothing with that won't charge. And you offer us $80 a piece. Guess what? That's $80 we didn't have yesterday, and it's $80 we're going to take today.
That's right. And so, it's inventory out of there.
It's one less piece of inventory because inventory in our industry is a nightmare. When you got 5,000 or 6,000 items in a building and you got to check them twice a year, it takes a full week and a half, 2 weeks to get somebody to check them all, verify that they're there, that they're marked correctly, that they're in the right location, and that damage hasn't happened to them. You know, that happens. I mean, we're not perfect. We're human. We've, you know, sure. I can say since the flood, I think we've had one thing that we've actually damaged that was our fault. We've had 2 actual incident reports on people's property that wasn't ours.
Yeah.
So, you know, one of them was easy resolvable. You know, hey, look, we got a new one right here. Take the new one. We'll take the used one that was damaged. No questions asked.
Sure. And that's the thing. When you deal with BJ Pawn, you're dealing with someone with a lot of family history in this business, and it's going to be an honest transaction all the way around. You don't have to worry about that. Jeremy's been doing this a long time. And so for those of you out there that may go in there and you know, Jeremy is going to base the price off of whatever he buys from you off of what the market is carrying at that time. It's a program, and that program is going to kind of show the average. And maybe if it's a little hotter item here locally, you might get a couple bucks more, or what if it's a dead item here locally, you might get a couple bucks less, but it's going to be a fair offer. Yeah. And that's something that you can pretty much take to the bank. Now, let me ask you this. What is the strangest item you've ever had walk in the pawn shop, or maybe something just that was kind of strange and you were like, oh.
Well, we never had it walk in, so there's a few platforms for like lead generation for pawn shops. We had a guy that wanted to do his left prosthetic leg the other day. That was just the other day, like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that's nice.
I mean, and with the marijuana boom, I mean, I've had guys bring full on grow tents, lights, hookahs, the whole 9 yards, bring them in the shop. The weirdest one I've ever had was, and it was one of those things like, I don't really know why they would bring it in. Still trying to process that. Lady walks in, very attractive lady, opens up a suitcase slap full of her party toys and lingerie.
Oh, nice.
How do you value that?
I can't. I mean, yeah, that may be the way you make your livelihood, and I'd love to loan you some money, but at this point in time, I'm ready to write you a payday loan if you got a checking account.
Right.
And I try not to refer to payday loans. We don't do a bunch of them, but I still offer that service for somebody that is really in need of money. They have a checking account. They can't come up with some sort of collateral. Well, we can write you a payday loan, but you have to have a check and you have to have a checking account. We still do it old school way.
Yeah.
Everything's still paper. There's a lot of these new payday loan places that do it with a debit card. And it's our software and our technology, and we don't do enough of it to incur that cost to do the debit card yet.
Sure.
And we don't want to be. We're not a payday loan lender. We just offer it as this alternative service for that kind of situation.
Right. Yeah, keep those. Don't keep the fun party stuff at home. Okay, so what is what is the most valuable item maybe that you've ever purchased?
So, and you can actually find this on WAFB. So back years ago, this was probably early 2000s. I was young. I wasn't even working there full time. Just where I went and hung out on the weekends with my dad. Yeah. And my dad actually ended up hiring a store manager at that time that lived 2 houses down from us for a store manager. And we were doing big. This was when eBay power sellers first come around. So to give you an idea of the timeline, so we had reached eBay power seller. We were like red star, blue star status. And we had a violin come out. And the store manager, which was doing the eBay stuff too at the same time, was looking at it, and he was like, they wrote a $75 loan on the violin. It is an old violin, and so come to find out, it's a real Antone Stradivarius violin that was stolen from LSU.
Oh,
so we didn't even have any idea it was stolen or anything. We started doing the research. We started finding out. So he called his uncle at the time, which was with BRPD, and said, look, we got a violin here that just doesn't match up for the area, the criteria, the people, anything like that. And turns out it was stolen. And we ended up giving it back to LSU. LSU still never gave us our $75 back on it. But we ended up getting it back to LSU because it was a LSU musical instrument. From what we gathered and the pictures we sent off to a guy that was, helping us identify it, said it was probably a $25,000 violin at the minimum. From the pictures, minimum, he would guarantee us $25,000. And like I said, he's a reseller.
Yeah.
So like I said, that was a guaranteed minimum $25,000 on the violin. But we've had all kinds of heavy equipment that we've done. Vehicles. Like I said, we love heavy equipment. We have a place to store it. It don't matter if it gets rained on. It's a lot easier than a vehicle. People come back with the vehicle. My windshield wipers are stuck to my window. Well, ma'am, it's been sitting outside for 3 months. Nobody's touched it.
Yeah. That'll make
literally and that's what people get the common misconception. When you pawn it, we put it up and we literally touch it. If it's there for a year, it's been touched twice for us to do inventory, and literally all we got to do is make sure it's turned on the shelf so we can see the sticker for our inventory number and it matches up make and model.
Right.
We don't do anything other than that with it.
Sure.
People are like, well, you don't go crank my car. No. It's not. I don't need to crank your car. It's back there. It's safe. It's secure. It's sitting there. It's fine. As long as it ain't moving and running away, we're okay.
Right, exactly. Now, and I know that pawn shops are heavily regulated, and there's a lot of regulations there. One that sticks out to me is I know when you buy jewelry, there's a whole period there, and you can't, when Jeremy buys a gold chain, it doesn't just go right in the case and for sale. And I'm gonna let you kind of say why, and then what the regulation is.
So Louisiana has, we're kind of different with Napoleonic laws. So, but we have a whole secondhand law book for secondhand dealers. So it covers even antique dealers. We buy gold places, thrift stores that give, vouchers for cash that are redeemable at Coinstar or whatever. Anytime that you're able to get a cash value out of something, even if it's in a roundabout way, you're legally regulated by secondhand dealer laws in Louisiana. It doesn't matter if you're giving it. I mean, trade-in credits are different, but if you're actually giving out money over the counter, whether it be a preloaded Visa card, a voucher to go to the Coinstar right there, the ATM or whatnot, it's secondhand dealer laws. So the pawn shop, the Louisiana Pawnbrokers Association, was founded in the early 90s. My dad was big in that. He was president for 5 or 6 years. I'm vice president currently on the association. So we're big on, not so much just us being regulated, because we come in and said, okay, if y'all want us, they were talking about regulating us in the early 90s, and they said, well, if you want to regulate us as pawn shops, everybody else that gives out cash should be regulated too. So, but we're going to come in and we're going to write a proposed set of rules for us. And we hired an attorney that still writes the book to this day. And we hired an attorney and we wrote the set of regulations. And they, of course, there were some things we bended on, and there's some things they bended on. And so there's a set of rules that we have to follow. So like, Jim comes in today with a camera. Jim sells me camera. Well, guess what? Tomorrow morning, the police department knows that this camera is in my possession. They don't know that Jim gave it to me, but if they need to know Jim gave it to me, they can call and go, hey, ticket number, transaction number, blank, blank. Can you tell me who did that? And yeah, no problem. Or they can call us. They call us all the time. Hey, has so-and-so been in with this driver's license number? Sure. Let me see. No, he hasn't been in 6 months. Or, oh yeah, he was here yesterday. We need a note. Next time you see him, you need to call us.
Yeah. And that's
so, we work with our guys for that. They know that a lot of these guys that are running from the law are going to end up using us because they don't want to go to a bank. They don't have a bank account because they're normally in and out of jail already. Right. And we don't want to do business with them either. So we like to know that too. We'd much rather get them there with whatever they got and prolong the situation to get them where they need to be. If they need to be apprehended, they need to be apprehended. It doesn't do us no good taking a stolen product, because we're out money too now, because the victim that it was stolen from is going to get it back before we'll ever get our money back.
If you ever get it back, they charge restitution, but who's gonna, that's if they get caught. That's if they actually pay the restitution back. And just to kind of dig deeper into that. So and I agree with that law. And the reason I agree with that law is if I go in and I pawn a gold necklace, and that gold necklace had been stolen. The reason Jeremy has to hold on to that for a certain amount of time is if the person I stole it from reports it stolen, that gives, for example, the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office time to go see Jeremy with a picture and say, we need to see your holdback on your jewelry. Jeremy brings it, sets it on the counter. If they see that necklace, they take it. The bad thing for Jeremy is they don't turn around and say, all right, how much did you pay for this? We're going to give you your money back. He just loses that money. Now, when that person gets caught and they go to jail and then they get sentenced, they have to pay restitution back. And so eventually Jeremy might see his money. But what it does is it helps to slow down the rash of pawns of stolen items, because those folks that are stealing those items, they know that Jeremy's going to hold on to that thing, and Jeremy's going to get all their information. He's going to have their name. You probably make a copy of their license.
Well, by law, we have to have a valid ID. So we got to have a valid ID. We got, a lot of pawn shops now take a photo of you in the store when you do it. That helps deter a lot of the guys that are, a little bit more shady. They don't want their photo taken right then and there.
Yeah.
But laws are, we have to hold it 30 days minimum.
30 days minimum.
Everything 30 days minimum. That gives the police department the chance to catch up and work the caseload.
Now, if it's a legit transaction, we don't want to discourage you from bringing it in and selling it.
So, but at the end of the day,
he'll give you the money the same day.
Yeah, you get the money the same day regardless. That's not your problem. That's the nature of our business. We know that we're going to incur a loss on certain products throughout the year. We know it's going to happen. It's just the nature of our business, but it shouldn't be right either that, the DA has the right to dismiss our charges without our consent. Yeah. So, on our restitution, or give them credit time served, and the jail gets the money at the end of the day, which does me no good either. If you're sitting in jail being an unproductive member of society and it's costing me, you more money to put you in jail than you could be out working paying the restitution off.
Yeah, exactly. So true. Very good point.
I guess I come at it differently, but, secondhand dealers, we have laws. We have hours we're allowed to regulate, that we're allowed to be open. A lot of people don't even realize that. But at the end of the day, your transaction's still private. The only thing they know is what you bring in. They don't know your name, your driver's license number. They don't know, other than that it was yesterday's transactions get loaded up every morning, and they know what the items are. That's all they know.
And they don't care either. I mean, if you're an upstanding, honest citizen, they're not looking for they're not, it's not like these police have time to go in there and oh, look who's pawning their whatever it is. So no worries there. Let me ask you this. Pawn Stars, okay, became a big show back just a few years ago, and it kind of Hollywoodized. I don't know if that's a word, but I'm going to make it one. The pawn shop business. It became very popular, and people realize how interesting pawn shops are.
It bring us out the light.
It really did. It really did. And the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop in Nevada. Have you ever been there? Did you?
No, never been there. My father went when he was alive, so it's a TV show. So keep that in mind. It's a lot of it's staged. That's why you see the same stuff in the background normally. It is a TV show. It is in true sense a staged reality TV show.
Right. And they're cutting, for everything that comes in there that's worth $10,000 and super rare, there's probably 100 things that.
Yeah, well, and they're searching those things out. They're making the show with that. So your everyday items, that stuff doesn't happen every day. That what you see on TV one episode would take most pawn shops 3 or 4 years to see half that stuff.
Yeah.
So, and they're a specialty pawn shop, I call them, because they don't do firearms and they deal in antiques and art. And a lot of your pawn shops in the majority of the southern part of the United States aren't going to deal in antiques and art. Right. You have some pawn shops in, high density areas like Las Vegas, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and up in the New England states that are what we call specialty pawn shops. They cater to, antiques and art. Sure. And that's what they're there for. There's actually a pawn shop in downtown. I don't know where up there, but I've read the article on the guy. He's in the National Pawn Association. And he has a pawn shop. I want to say it's outside the Bronx in New York. And he has about $1 million loan balance on tennis shoes. That's the only thing he does. Tennis shoes. Wow. Specialty limited edition tennis shoes. He saw the niche in the market of people that have collections of tennis shoes that want to buy more, but don't have the income right at the second, but they need the money so they can put shoes up as collateral, and he holds them and he knows the market and the resale on them. That's something that, I'm still trying to learn, but it is a growing market with limited edition shoes.
Here's an interesting thing you'd like to know. You may want to talk to them about it. SportNCenter right there in Denham Springs has a pair of Jordan 1s.
So, yeah.
They indeed do. I seen them. And now they're not there. And I keep asking James, where do those go? I'm ready to buy them now. So
and like I said, tennis shoes are becoming a fad. With among the community, with the younger people getting older, they care more about their shoes than I think their car now.
Yeah. So, there's no doubt about it. There's a market.
It's the generations are changing. So, stuff that I cared about, y'all didn't care about, but it's now, everyday normal for us.
Collectibles are a big thing, and everybody, there's something for everybody, and that's the interesting thing about it. It's obviously, your Facebook, you have a very respectable amount of fans on Facebook. Almost 7,000 last time I looked, and he's looking for more. But they have a great Facebook page that there's a lot of interaction and a lot of fans. You have a very respectable fan base there, but that goes to speak of the popularity of what you do and the interest in it. Now, one thing that I find is a commonality among people who own businesses is there's a book or an individual that they have come across that have helped them in their leadership capability and things like that. I call it the local leaders library. I know we discussed it earlier, and you're like, I don't read a whole lot. A lot of people don't. I read a ton when I was younger. Now I listen a lot. I listen to a lot of podcasts.
That's what I was going to say.
Motivational stuff. So who's someone that you listen to, man?
So a guy, and this was turned on to by a business coach that we have for the pawn industry, and he's a pawn industry business coach. He has his own podcast, but his name's Yugal. And
Yugal?
Yigal.
Okay.
He's a Jewish guy. Yigal, the pawn leaders. So, but he turned us on to one of the episodes. He did an interview like we're doing now with one of the guys, and the guy is the CEO of David Brownlee. So David Brownlee is the Rockstar Service, Rockstar Profits.
Okay.
So, and he preaches, Rockstar customer service.
Yeah.
So, and he believes in, if, treating everybody as the same as Rockstar customer service. He's done, he spoke to Lincoln. He's
Wow.
HP,
Yeah.
Google. He is a customer service guru when it comes to that aspect. He's done a lot of very reputable brands.
Well, we're going to link him to the website, to this video, and it'll probably be his website or something, maybe a video of his, but I'm going to put all those links in the description. People can check it out, and I'm going to add him to our local leaders library, because that sounds like someone that I'd be interested in checking out.
Sure.
One other thing we do on this podcast is we do fun facts based off of what each podcast guest is here for. And this was a fun one because it's pawns. Yeah. So there's a lot of fun facts that I found interesting. We're going to kind of go over and get a little laugh on that. So it's estimated that 25 million Americans, approximately 25 million, do not have a checking account, just like you said. Pawn shops serve this population by offering short-term loans. So there's a lot of people out there. Jeremy has already said this, which I found interesting. So here it is, right out of the horse's mouth, so to speak. They don't necessarily believe in banks, but they still need short-term loans. And this is where the pawn shops come in. So they're giving a service to these people. The average collateral loan amount, what do you think it is?
Should be about $137.
Super close. 100 according to the National Pawnbrokers Association. So you were right there on it.
Well, I know those data numbers, and they're about 6 years old right now.
Yeah, and
just giving you a heads
how
up.
old this is. So it could be that.
You got them from the NPA's website. They're about 6 years old at the moment.
No doubt. The word pawn is derived by the Latin word, pignus. And I'm totally mispronouncing that, I'm sure, but it means pledge. So basically pawn and pledge mean the same thing. The profession of pawnbroker stretches back actually 3,000 years. Queen Isabella of Spain pawned her fine jewelry to fund Columbus's expedition to discover America. Interesting. She may walk in one day and want to, who knows? Collateral loans acquired at pawn shops do not require a credit check, and they don't impact your credit score. So if you're someone, you're pre-approved for a loan for a house, and maybe you need some money to get some furniture before that loan is approved, you can get a collateral loan through BJ Pawn, and y'all don't run credit or anything like
no credit check. So, and a lot of people have this misconception with us that if you lose a loan, like you come in, pawn something, you lose it, that you now can't do another loan with us, or you can't have multiple loans with us. That's not true. We'll take, I've had customers have 15, 16 active loans. Now, most of them aren't a whole bunch of money, $25, $30 here or there. Yeah. But you can have as many of them as you want. Our biggest thing is we want to communicate with you. If you say, okay, I don't have the money to get all these out. I know I don't have the money, but I want to save this, and this, I want to save these 5 items. I want these back. We can make that happen. We can come up with a game plan. We can get you on a payment plan. We can figure something out to let you get those items back. That way, you're not stressing yourself trying to make good with us, because that's not your job. Your job is, yes, you pledge that you would come back and get it, but if you can't come back and get it, we understand too. Life happens. Life's constantly happening. It never stops.
So communicate. That's the key. Talk to BJ Pawn and let them know what's going on. And this is a privately owned company. And they with privately owned companies, there's not all this public owned rules and regulations. They can work around maybe something going on with someone. So keep that in mind. Communicate. Jeremy, tell us where you're located, and also tell us where people can find you online.
So we're located right here in the heart of Denham, at 700 Florida Avenue now, Southwest, in Denham Springs. We're right across from where I grew up. It was a Sonic and a DMV, but now it's Whitney Bank and affordable rent to own. So we're right across the street from them. You can find us online at Facebook. Facebook's probably our most up to date. www.bjpawn.net.
Very popular site.
So, you can find us Instagram. I'm working on Instagram.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to keep up with it all.
It's hard. It's hard.
Oh,
There's
hard.
There's so much social media now. I mean, now people are Snapchatting, they're TikToking, they're Instagramming, they're it's tough to keep up.
I feel like our age group, our target, our avatar, as we call it, so our avatar customer is going to be more so on Facebook.
I would agree with that.
So, that's really where the avatar market is for the guys that are on their smartphones.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So I'm going to link all of Jeremy's social media as well as his address also on this video. So you can check it out there as well. We have a couple gifts for you today.
All right.
Some special gifts just for Jeremy. I'm going to give you this one first. And this comes straight from Hancock Whitney Bank. And this is Miss Lori Johnson up there, was kind enough to sponsor our show today. One of my sponsors. And she said, make sure that Jeremy gets this. So I'll pull it out of here so everybody can see it. And this is a really cool portfolio. It's awesome. As a matter of fact, I liked it so much, I talked her into giving me one. So this is from Hancock Whitney Bank. Lori works at the location right across from you, Jeremy, on Florida Boulevard in Denham Springs. That is for you, and that is from the good folks at Hancock Whitney Bank. This is from me, and this is just for being on the show. It's a perfect Local Leaders of Podcast t-shirt just for you, and that's compliments of SportNCenter as well. And they made this cup for you as well. This is the Local Leaders edition, and it has a bunch of candy in it. So
exactly what I need after.
So you were showered with gifts today. You picked the right episode to come on.
Yeah.
We do appreciate you being here. And folks, go see Jeremy. He's a true local leader. He's, born and bred right here in Denham Springs. Love Livingston Parish. And you are a member of the Chamber of Commerce. And, you support local business just like they support you. And that's what we're all here to do. I want to thank you, McHugh David, for engineering this podcast. My guest for today, Jeremy Powell of BJ Pawn, the Livingston Parish News for the space, and all you viewers and listeners for your support. Follow me on all my social media, and thank you so much. We've hit over 300 subscribers on YouTube, garnering over 220 in the last week and a half. I would like to credit McHugh for some of that. He did a beautiful article for me in the Livingston Parish News just a week and a half ago, and all of a sudden I got 300 subscribers on YouTube. McHugh, is there a correlation there? I think so. Please keep following me on YouTube. I would like to thank my sponsors for this show as well. I could not do this without all these local businesses to support me as I support local business. If you're interested in sponsoring Local Leaders of Podcast or appearing on the podcast, you can email me at jim@paintpodcast.com. We also issue a weekly newsletter called The Weekly Leader straight to your inbox. So I'm going to attach a link in the description of this podcast where you can sign up completely free. Keep an eye out for my next guest, as I believe it's going to be Mr. McHugh David joining me next. We got Labor Day coming up, so there's going to be about a week delay between this podcast and the next one you'll see. But we've got McHugh David coming up. We've got James Adam McCants with SportNCenter coming on pretty soon, and we've got our guy in Walker, the auctioneer in Walker that everybody knows real well. He's got about 25,000 followers on Facebook, and he's going to be joining us as well. So until next time, I am Jim Chapman reminding you to love your community.